Yo, yo, yo! Think it's time y'all heard some hip hop. Ah, woo! Ah, what a day. How many of y'all knew that EPMD almost did a joint album with Ice Cube? Seriously. Seriously. Now, after the Death Certificate album, Ice Cube was put at the top of hip hop's elite. Death Certificate album was looked at as probably one of the greatest hip hop albums that was made at that time. Completely different. Now, what got everyone's attention about the album was the actual art itself. It had broken and shattered so many records as far as production, like you know, concept, everything. And you move from that to a whole different. It's almost like a Titanic shift to the Predator album. Now, because of the success of all the other films and I mean not films but albums and the pressure that comes along with it, he was immediately like back to work. It was like no time to enjoy the fruits of the labor. Now it's time to capitalize and get the money. This is it. So priorities see dollar signs and everything coming from this album, and this is a massive deal for them. So, the Bomb Squad and Ice Cube couldn't come to an agreement on what they wanted production wise for the album. So Sir Jinx, was who he had worked with on Death Certificate, basically knew how to make those type of songs anyway. But there was another group that was doing the type of music that Ice Cube wanted or liked. He felt their vibe because they were all over the radio in like the Bay Area. Mainly because EPMD was more funk than anything, and they used a lot of funk samples. Like, in the West Coast, they loved like Fantastic Voyage, like Gap Band. Those were Parliament. Those were their type of bands mostly. Then the East Coast kind of felt like that. That's too old and all that. Those kind of songs were classics. So to now include that was kind of ignorant to a lot of MCs when some of them on the East Coast were using those samples, but not like how EPMD were. And after dropping three of the most incredible albums ever, they're working on their fourth project. And Ice Cube is in the Hit Factory working on songs for this album. So he's hanging out with EPMD while making this album. A lot of people did not know this. But while he's sitting there working on all these songs, he's got he did what song he did? We had to tear this mother up and check yourself. And Dawes Effects is on there. So he wanted another song with EPMD. They actually did a St. Ives commercial together while they was recording this album. So EPMD had basically finished their album. And Ice Cube was saying, man, we need to do a joint album together. Like an Ice Cube and like an East Coast, West Coast album with EPMD and Ice Cube. Like, we just knock it out. Like 10 songs, 10 tracks. And put that out. And he's like, I talked to Priority. They should be able to work with Def Jam and, your record label. Because they weren't signed like exclusively with Def Jam yet. They had just got there recently. So, Russ was in charge of everything at that point. Because Russ came and got them from their label. Once he heard the first album, he had to get them. So, all of this was going to be the new wave, the new sound. And because the West Coast gravitated to playing their album, you know, that's why all these other songs broke out like on the West. Like all his major releases that he had that was coming out. Even after he left, he got out of New York completely after the incident happened between him and P. That's what destroyed everything with the Ice Cube and, them working together and all that stuff. So a lot of changes was implemented. A lot of directional moves were made. But before we got there, they're working on an album. I mean, a song for Ice Cube. Because Russell called him and was like, yo, did y'all finish that for Ice Cube? He's like, finish what with Ice Cube? Check Yourself is done. Daz Effects, they did their thing. They already had the track and they wanted Daz Effects sound on that. And he's like, no. He's like, Eric, are you listening to me, Eric? Ice Cube wants you to do a record. He wants you to do a record for this new album, kids. This new album's gonna be a monster. He's gonna be the number one rap album ever. It's the first time a rapper gonna have the number one rap album ever. And you not gonna be on that? Yo, he wants you to do the track, man. You better do this track, Eric. And Eric is working on finishing. He's basically EQing songs and trying to finish the album that they doing. So it's like, what in the world is this? So Russ is pissed because Russ, he's thinking this is going to be big for EPMD. This is big for Def Jam. We need this. Go ahead and finish the track. So Q was waiting, and it was like 2 weeks. Like, are they going to do the track or are they not going to do the track? So Eric Sermon told him, like, yeah, I got you. I'm just finishing up here, but I got you. I got you on this song, on this record, because, you one of us. You held us down, man. You looked out for us when we was in LA. I ain't forgot that. And you were one of the coolest cats from the West Coast, so I got you. So the album was basically done. Business never personal. That album was done. And he was creating this song for Ice Cube. So he finished the track and he tried to get it over to Cube and they said our album's completed. And it was like, what? Like, yep, album's done. Album's done. Predator was complete by that time. Ice Cube had moved on from using a record. And the record that they had was Headbanger. The headbanger, what the headbanger, what the headbanger. Now, I don't know how that would work with Ice Cube doing the headbanger because to me that didn't fit. So it ended up being like what are we gonna do with this record? The beat is hard. We done did all this time working on it to get it right. Redman album is like coming out the same time as EPMD's album, basically. Red album's done. So they was gonna make it a hit squad album. I mean record. And just let them all get on there and rip. So they had Redman, I think K Solo was on there, and EPMD on there, and they just like go. And K Solo wasn't even signed to them. He just got on the record. So it was crazy because he was crying about not getting paid, and everybody got paid except for him, and all kind of goofiness. But that's a sidetrack to the whole sidebar to a whole nother story that I think I've already covered. But I don't see how the Headbanger song would have worked with Ice Cube. But in the midst of all of this, the Rodney King riots, the trials, all of this came to play, and it affected a lot of people's music. Ice Cube songs started to reflect what had happened on the Predator, because he was in the middle of recording it, and he ended up creating new songs. Well, you got to understand what it is that you're looking for when you make these records. Me, I seem to know exactly what I want. I know exactly what I want when I'm listening to records, or what I'm, listening for, or a certain sound when I'm trying to pick out who I want to listen to at that moment in time. But a lot of these other artists, not so much. I don't think they have a plan. It's not orchestrated the right way. But if this would have worked, you would have saw a collaborational album with EPMD and Ice Cube. And it's weird because Crossover and Headbanger, I think, were the last two songs on the album, and that ended up being the two singles from the album that led the album off. And that's crazy because Russell Simmons pushed for that crossover record. Because the album was basically complete, and Russell wanted him to do another record, and they was listening to the album. Yo, Emmett, I need you to go in there and make me I need a song. I need a song. I need a record that I can put out and make a video for. I need something for the radio, Eric. I need something for the radio. LL, you guys should follow what LL did. You know the song that LL did for y'all? Yo, Eric, you need something like that. You need something like that. The song with you and LL Cool J? You need something like that. So that's why the crossover was made. And the crossover was like a FU record to Russell Simmons. For those who didn't know, that song was like a FU record. Like we strictly underground, man. We ain't doing the crossover. So the crossover record was the single. That was like, we don't even need to do this type of stuff, but let's do it. So it was a very interesting record, to say the least. But it was a big FU to Russell Simmons for asking them to do this extra record, as if saying all your songs is not good enough for the radio, except for you need to work on some radio hits. But EPMD has never really been about radio. And they were right. Predator was the first hip hop album to debut number one on all music charts, not just the hip hop charts. It was the number one Billboard album. First time a rap album has done that. But it lacked. It lacked a lot of substance from Death Certificate. And Ice Cube was going into a more of a East Coast sound and a West Coast sound. And it was a mixture that was different. And I'll give him that. It was much different from Death Certificate. Like Wicked just blew everyone's mind. Like, what is he doing? And everyone was trying to use that new sound that Daz Effects had and that he was caught up in. Everyone was caught up in that sound. So I don't want to make a very long video about it. I just want to give you guys some hip hop history knowledge. Don't forget you can support the page hitting the Cash App up, which is Carceno, Karceno. You can like the page, hit that notification bell. Hopefully, if you're new here, and subscribe. We'll talk later. Meanwhile, I'm out. And of course, you know what happened with EPMD. So that ended everything at the time from working together. So, deuces.